Want me to do you want me to do a little bio read?
If you like.
Yeah, just that's great. Yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of a bio
Yeah,
read.
we've known each other for
a long time, but anybody who might be watching online or not in the room here doesn't know who you are or who I am.
And put your own spin. You don't have to go right off that. You can throw in
spin.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Well, obviously you're from Winnipeg, right? You did start as a DJ. I know that, and you're throwing parties. See, that's all. It sounds good. Okay, we're gonna just go for it.
Yeah.
Born and raised here in Winnipeg. Doug started his career in music DJing and throwing parties throughout Winnipeg in the early 2000s. This exposure to live shows and the music industry inspired him to pursue a career that led him for the move to Toronto. That was big when you left. You went to Toronto in 2008, and next thing you know, you're working at Alaska doing some really big things, which is wild. You ended up doing some management work with Chris Taylor. That's the whole Matt Alaska thing. Getting in there, Mastercraft. All of a sudden, we're seeing pictures of you and Mastercraft. And then we're hearing about stuff that's going on with Chris Castle. And then we're seeing stuff with Metric and another Furtado. And then you move around, bounce around, change some things up, ended up in LA. And I remember going to Toronto and bumping into you. And it was different because you see a lot more in Toronto. All of a sudden, you're like, yeah, I'm working with Steve Aoki. And that was wild. You have a lot of people telling you big things that they're doing at work, and you're always excited for them. And then all of a sudden, you run into a friend that you haven't seen in a while, and his big news is that he's working with one of the biggest DJs in the world, which is kind of mind-blowing when you're working with somebody that everybody, the name recognition right there alone is so wild. So you're doing some really big things at this point, and then even now, you keep graduating and moving up and up and up. So that was me starting off with a bio, putting a little bit of a spin on it, and now realizing that I don't want to hear my voice anymore.
Oh, that was great, actually. And if my voice cuts out, I lost my voice 2 weeks ago, just from yelling too much. So if it cracks, don't hold it against me.
For sure.
But what's really interesting about this story is today.
Okay.
So this might not be the best place to start, but for those who don't know, Steve's playing in Winnipeg today. I met Steve in 2005 on Main Street in Winnipeg. We did a show. I put money I didn't have on I think it was like a $1,000 limit credit card, and then I had to put some money on a PayPal account. I had no money. I didn't even know who he was. I found him on MySpace, and I messaged him, "Hey, you want to come play Winnipeg?" He's like, "What's that?" And he was into it because he's like, "I've never played there." Like, of course. But that was 2005, and I was just living here in Winnipeg, DJing, just little parties, like 50 people, 100 people, like nothing crazy. I was just enjoying it. That was before I was like, well, maybe I can do something in music. Mm-hmm. The other really interesting thing that just happened was when he came, he used to travel with this photographer who became very famous named the Cobra Snake. The Cobra Snake was like the first photographer probably in any music genre that would follow an artist around, take these photos and post them on MySpace and Friendster so people could get like a Studio 54 behind the scenes view of these crazy parties. Most of the really crazy ones were happening at Steve's own parties in LA, they were crazy. There was like 100 people there, but it'd be like Lady Gaga's first performance ever in LA was at this club that holds 100 people.
Wow.
Katy Perry, like, oh. Good catch.
What is that?
Yeah.
Reflexes.
Excitement.
The reflexes are on point. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, where I was going with Cobra Snake is what also makes it really amazing is so Cobra Snake just put out this really great retrospective book.
Okay.
On Rizzoli Books put it out. It's this beautiful, sort of like a 25-year retrospective of his work.
Yeah.
And I didn't know this. He told me this maybe 3 weeks ago. He goes, "You know the cover of this book?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "That's the party I met you at." I go,
wow.
"What?" He goes, this is the cover of this book, and it's Steve going all crazy, is Winnipeg 2005 at Club Desire, when it was Club Desire on Main Street.
Wow.
That's the cover of the book. The other cool thing about what happened when he was doing press for this book, he was doing all these podcasts as people do when they do press for a book.
For sure.
And people are asking him, like, about the book. Whoa, what about the cover? And I actually saved it on my phone. There's a clip from a podcast where he goes, "This was in Winnipeg. That was probably one of my favorite parties of all time."
Wow.
That was 2005.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's really cool to be here now, because we've known each other a long time.
Definitely.
I still identify Winnipeg as like my home.
Yep.
My parents live 15-minute drive from here.
Yeah.
My brother lives here. And then it's kind of cool because Steve's playing a show here tonight. And it's like kind of weird because it all goes like full circle.
For sure.
And it's kind of all where it began. And I think if I didn't throw that party, but also if I didn't connect with him, like we hit it off.
Yeah.
We hit it off that day. We did 2 more parties in Winnipeg.
Wow.
After that. I don't know if he would have, like, in 2013, would have been like, I moved 2014 from Toronto to LA, but if it wasn't for that early friendship and doing having some fun parties, who knows what would have happened.
For sure.
And I also want to just, sorry to cut you off, I just want to say one thing too. From that time in Winnipeg, I was throwing these parties once or twice a month, little parties, but they were great. I know some of you would go, like, you have to admit, they were great parties.
Yeah.
Really, like, they're almost like punk rock parties. When I decided I'm going to go work in music, keep in mind that was like a very unintelligent, my brain was like, I'm going to go work in music. Had no idea what that even meant. I didn't even know what you meant to work in music. I thought, you got to go work at a record label.
Yeah, for sure.
So when I moved to Toronto, that was like a 5-year, like, I'm not sure if I can even survive the week. 5 years of,
wow.
I interned for Chris.
Yeah.
I interned for Chris for 10 months for free. Because I went there thinking I saved up a bunch of money here. And when I'm talking about a bunch of money, I'm talking like 2 months rent in Toronto. But in my head, I'm like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move there. It's gonna be great.
For sure.
I convinced this guy. I didn't convince him. I basically begged this guy for an intern job. He said no to me 100 times. Finally, because I was friends with Mastercraft and he took care of Mastercraft, they're like, just give him a chance. And he's like, all right, you can come in on Tuesdays, you can come in on Thursdays.
Awesome.
I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I just went in every day. I was like, I'm going in every day. And I went in every day. But I didn't get paid.
See?
And then I was like going out in Toronto for the first month I moved there. Like, I was living in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I was like 0 in like a month and a half. And then I think back to like, it was like at no point ever easy. Not one point.
For sure.
It was awesome. I loved every minute of it. But like, there was times where I was like, well, I didn't have any support. Like, I couldn't get money from anybody to help me get by.
Yeah.
But I kind of rambled there, but I think what I'm like super happy about is I landed at 5:20 today. Right before I landed, I was worried I was going to be late to get here. And I was driving here, and it's always so nice to drive here because I see everything, all the flashbacks of my childhood and stuff that my dad would take me there, you know.
For sure.
But then in my head, it like really hit me. I was like, holy shit, like, it's full circle.
Yeah.
It's full circle because he's playing a show.
Yeah. Big show tonight.
I had to go. I had to be here. I was like, well, I wanted to come see you and do this, but I also, this is really important for me to see the show. I see 1 million of his shows a year.
Of course.
But this is the one. And he even knew. He like hit me up like 2 weeks ago. He's like, you're coming, right? I'm like, of course I'm coming.
See?
Yeah.
It's wild to...
It's wild to think about that. Like planted a seed with the first party that you grew within, back you saying that's like 2005? And then you were watering it with a couple other parties and that kind of relationship that you
I didn't know I was doing that.
that's the best part. That's why I love the story, because it's not an intentional thing. You're just doing the good stuff,
putting in some good work, and that was the seed. And you're unaware of the fact that it's growing into something. So now you're interning 2 days a week at Last Gag and volunteering for free.
The other three, just insane. So you're just there for free all day, every day. How does that now start to turn into actual employment and moves being made?
So I'll start with Chris, who was the guy at Last Gag. I still consider him probably one of my closest and most important friends. We still talk all the time. Because he did give me a chance in the beginning of like, I don't want you here. But he really did. He was like, you don't know anything. And he reminded me of that all the time. Which I'm so happy he did, because if he didn't put me in my place, if I went and complained to him, he's such a great guy too, and his knowledge of music is so good. But if I went and complained to him about something, he'd just be like, well, 30 feet over there is the door. Like, feel free to leave. And I'd be like, maybe one day I will. And I never did. But I went in there and I started working for his label.
Yeah.
Because I was like, he had a really cool label. It was like Mastercraft, Crystal Castles, Metric, all these groups I was really into. Within like 3 weeks, I was like, no, this is not for me. Wow. Working at a label is not what I thought. It was not what I thought at all. And I was doing like just meaningless work that I felt was meaningless. Yeah. I ended up doing even more meaningless work, but it was work I enjoyed. So you can do meaningless work and it can actually mean something. Yeah. I soon learned between him and there was this girl named Claire that ran the management stuff. So they just started throwing me into like management stuff, but it was really to be like go get coffee, like just whatever needed to be done. Like, this artist ran out of gas. Go get him gas for his car. And I'd be like, where is he? It'd be like an hour away. I don't even have a car.
Just figured it out.
Yeah, I was like, I literally take like 2 buses and like a streetcar in Toronto. I'd fill it up, and they'd be like, all right, see you later. And I'd be like, I'd go all the way back to the office. But I was just doing everything. I kind of liked it though, because I was like, you felt like you're in the mix of something.
Yeah.
And even when like they had little wins or they did something creative, I had nothing to do with that, but you felt like kind of part of it. And you're like, it wasn't like this narcissism where I'm like, I got to be close to these acts.
Yeah.
In that way, it was more of like, it felt like you were part of some sort of magic.
For sure.
And I was doing that for a while before I started getting paid. And when he started paying me, I'm not talking about like I can survive pain. Like, it's very low. But I loved it. And every time I like moved up, or for an artist was like, hey, thanks for that, it was like,
that's awesome.
This is great. This is like the best. Anytime, any little thing. And plus, I just wanted to be around like artists.
For sure.
I wanted to be around music, the creative like process. I wanted to be around like, even some of them are like full-blown psychotics. I enjoyed that. I was like, look at the way they think. This is wild. Like, I don't know if I'll ever be friends with this person, but like, it's really cool to see.
For sure.
And I just started grinding and doing everything anybody asked. I was like, new up and coming groups, they're like, they need a tour manager. They're like, hey, have you tour managed before? Totally. No, never.
Okay, that
kind of brings me to, I guess, a really important kind of first point. Yeah. The whole don't say no to anything, fake it till you make it, like that energy, that drive, that gung-ho. How do we make sure, as people who are trying to grind, how do we make sure that we're doing that constructively and not potentially like, because you run and you're like, I got that, I know how to do that, but you don't know how to do that. And you're not quick enough to be able to figure out how to do that. How do we avoid like stepping on a landmine and
I don't even really know what that answer is, because I'm pretty grateful most days about everything. Like, I moved in 2008, but it still feels like it was 5 years ago or 3 years ago.
COVID.
Yeah, totally. But if I look back
Yeah.
at all the decisions I made and
Yeah.
didn't make, I could easily go, man, I was a genius. But totally not. I was just like, I did fake it, and I think I was lucky. It's not that I was smart or smarter or more skilled than the next person. I think I was lucky because there was people that came up with me at the same time who were on the same fake it till you make it sort of,
Yeah.
and they weren't so lucky, or maybe they chose another path, maybe not music anymore, because it's hard.
For sure.
So I think I'm lucky. Like, I think there was some perseverance and then some skills that were learned that made me luckier.
Okay.
But like, it could have went either way. Like some of the decisions I made were just terrible.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say luck or not. There's clearly something in there that helped you to get where you are. And I'm not gonna go ahead and sit down here. I'd even try and convince all these people there's luck.
You know what I think it? Yeah.
What is luck?
Hey!
That's luck.
I'm smiling because I believe, I definitely believe the exact same.
And I like that because I think I was really good at opportunities. I think I was really good at being like, support this opportunity if I can.
For sure.
But I also think like, and I'm not going to speak for, I want to speak for the whole city.
Yeah.
And I speak for myself. And I look back.
Uh-oh.
When I look back to my teenage years, I had this deep insecurity.
Okay.
I'm going to just speak with teenage boys, insecurity about the normal things teenage boys. But I also had an inferiority complex.
Yeah.
I could never move to Toronto. I'm never going to work in music. It's impossible.
Yeah.
There's no way. And when I moved to Toronto, if I'm honest, I was like, I'm not good enough to be here. That's an illusion that I came up with in my head of years of thinking, well, it's them doing it. They can do it because they're from Toronto or New York or LA or wherever they're from.
Yeah.
I'm not from there, so there's no way. So I had my motivation did have some insecurity in it that motivated me. What I thought was, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's proven. I was trying to convince myself.
Yeah.
And it took a long time. Like, if I'm honest too, even when things started like turning, tipping points of good things,
Yeah.
I wasn't, my insecurity and maturity, even though I thought it was there, was still not there.
Yeah.
Then when you just like take away all this like bullshit vanity and narcissism of like entertainment and music is generally, it could feel shallow and money and all that stuff. When you just realize like, it's just we're all people trying to do the exact same thing. Even my friends now who are born and raised in Los Angeles who are like, oh, you're so lucky because we all have the same struggles.
Yeah.
And I think the commonality is like, I'd like to think the commonality is art.
Okay.
However you perceive the art. Some people are more into this part of the art than that, but I think it's the art.
Okay.
But I don't know if I've ever told anybody I was that insecure, but it's true. I was really insecure.
That's really interesting. Do you still feel when you think about it now, is it something where you still feel like you're genuinely insecure, or do you think that maybe a part of you is just like realizing I don't know as much as I want to know, so I gotta work harder to learn that? Both? Okay, for sure. Because I really like talking to you now. It really sounds like there was that hunger to learn and that drive to push, and you know, maybe keeps you up a little bit at night, like, all right, I gotta remember to do this, I gotta work harder. I love that. And the insecurity, when it starts that, but then you see as the maturity comes in, you see that it's kind of building something new. How do you help people here, or people watching online, or whoever, or somebody coming to you for advice, and how do you get them to skip some of that mindset of insecurity and kind of like come to you're more now positive altogether? What advice can you give to somebody to kind of like mentally prepare them to skip some of your hardships if possible?
I'd like to think I can help. I feel like I'm not I think I'm still trying to figure out how to help myself sometimes. But I think like with music, I'm lucky with what I do now.
Yeah.
Steve is my main world.
Yeah.
The thing that I love about Steve is he's a DJ and a producer, but he makes movies and TV shows and this and that, books and this. He's like, people love or hate him for all the stuff he does.
Okay.
But for me, I love it because I'm the one who does it all.
Okay.
And it's really, really great to do that stuff. But at the end of the day, the commonality with the music and entertainment is like, whatever your truth is,
Yeah.
you can be like, hey, I don't fuck with what he does.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't matter. That's his truth.
Yeah.
You have to find your own truth. And the hard part is being truthful with yourself, because you're like, oh, I'm better than everybody, or this is not cool, man. Like, I keep on getting passed by. It's like, you got to be truthful.
Yep.
You know, like I'm in sessions all the time, whether it's with Steve or other people.
Yeah.
And the one interesting thing I think about is like the way people get invested in their art.
Okay.
So they make a song,
Yeah.
and they can't let this thing go. They can't take the criticism. They can't do that. And I'm not saying you have to listen to everybody, but you have to be willing not to attach to things.
For sure.
And realize that you can keep on making more. And with that being said, you got to keep on making more. It's insane, like some of the people you go, oh, like, I don't know, Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
He's Ed Sheeran. He's done it all.
Yeah.
That guy, like, writes more songs than anybody. Like, I couldn't believe when we did something with him, we're like, this guy's in the studio every day, all day, making 1 million songs.
That's awesome.
And most of them are just being shelved.
Yeah.
But it's like the flexing of the muscle. And I think the honesty, because some honesty can be brutal.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta I've told artists, and I could be completely wrong. That was my time. I'm like, this is not working for you. I'm not saying don't be an artist, but I'm like, what you're doing is not working.
Fair. Very fair.
It's a hard thing because most people don't want to hear it.
So, how do you?
Now let's put it this way. Shoes on the other foot, right?
Yeah.
Somebody comes to you and they've been told, yo, this isn't working. How do you get them to like think about that in at least a positive way? Because personally, something's not working for me. I don't want to keep doing it. Like honestly, if it's not, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy. But it doesn't mean that you give up on everything. It's like, how do you get people to just be honest and reevaluate their move rather than give up when you have to give them that?
I don't know why not time things. Because there's lots of artists who are one way at one point, and I'm talking about painters and sculptors and
Everything, yeah.
everything. They were even writers. They were writing a certain way,
Yeah.
and then they changed throughout the years. You know, if you look at like Jackson Pollock, who's like a very iconic American painter.
Yeah.
If you look at his early stuff compared to what blew him up,
Yeah.
there was a change. He changed.
For sure.
You look at like, if you go to the classics, the Beatles albums,
Yeah.
if you look at the span of music they put out within like a very short period of time, if you think of all their albums, but you look on a timeline of like, they were evolving like crazy. If you think of like, I Want to Hold Your Hand, it was a couple years later, not like a decade later, where they were doing some out there stuff.
Yeah.
And like they're sort of the ones, I think most people will look at it being like, you know, it's hard to say something bad about the Beatles catalog. But if you look at, if they're doing that in the 60s, why can't you? Like, it's
Sure.
people just get stuck. And they also too, like, I think everybody knows what's good in life. And I think you can look at something and you go, that painting is good. I don't know why. I'm not saying you're like an expert, but you're like, that's good.
I respect that.
And even with some songs, if you're like, I hate pop music, sure. But you hear a song and you're like, I hate pop music, but yeah, that's a hit. You just sort of know.
Respect.
Because the other beauty of why I love music is, yeah, there's like a lot of others that go in, but it's the only thing I can think of that's as close to magic
Ooh.
as possible. Because you can explain it. You hear, it happens all the time. Some guy will come out with an article like, he's figured out the formula to a hit song.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's going to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
They can't, because there's so much that goes into it, and there's always this unknown. With all great art, great writing, great everything.
Sure.
You can put your finger on almost all of it except something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is a crazy thought.
Not to get into all the AI stuff, it was scary. trying to get inside all of our heads. Protect your heads. Don't show your country. But yeah, no, it is wild when we're looking at that. So I guess for me, bringing it back to what you're going through, when you're talking about hardships that you've been through, right? You're talking about kind of roadblocks in your career. And I'm sure you probably run into people who did like, holy, this isn't working for me. Like, and you're out there, you're going like, okay, cool, maybe I gotta change something up, but I'm not quitting. I'm gonna keep pushing through. How did you find the way or the confidence to keep pushing through and reevaluating when people are telling you like, you're new from Winnipeg, you shouldn't be thinking about leaving here in LA right now? Okay.
Intimate talk.
That's the plan. I thought we talked about this.
I'm going to tell you, there's a couple secrets, I think,
Okay.
where it gets me to a point where I am now.
Get your pens out.
All right, number one was just working so hard and blindly and just going crazy for a long period of time.
Okay.
And then, I don't know how long ago this is, I started doing therapy.
Hey.
And the therapy sort of changed everything. Because therapy, like, attacks you at your childhood, all this other stuff. Whatever you're going there for. But it ended up leaking into other things where all of a sudden it's like, I can easily not attach to things.
Hey.
I'm not saying I'm perfect. It's impossible. But maybe it's more mindful.
Yes.
Of like going, because sometimes people are right. Sometimes somebody will say something and I'm like, fuck him, he doesn't know. And then like maybe the next morning I wake up and I'm like, oh shit, he's kind of right. And then you just go, all right, where am I going to spend my time and effort? Because whenever you put your time and effort in, you're taking away from something else.
Yeah.
So what's the best use of your time?
I like that.
And maybe for me, like why it worked was what's the best use of things that make me happy? Because there's a lot of things I was doing at some point that were not making me happy.
Yeah.
But I thought this is good. This is good for me. This is good for business. This is good for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
you find that intersection where your happiness meets the most logical use of the work.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that doesn't...
I'm sure it isn't bringing in a crazy amount of income right off the bat, or it's probably requiring a lot of investment to put together and just time and energy, all of that. The dream was here, but if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Now you're in a position where you start putting that together, but obviously stop paying right away. How do we keep ourselves like, yeah, but the dream crushers out there is like, hey, try to give it a good shot, now come over here and, start typing this keyboard, or whatever it is. How do you keep them at bay while you're still doing this, and you're building this dream?
And it's not paying yet. What do you use in your mental to keep focused and not give up?
I think there was a couple things that came into play, but I think the one that was always hitting me was more of like a need. I was like, I just have to work in music.
Nice.
I just have to do it. Like, I can't define it. I just have to be it. Nothing else was making me as happy. I could have went and got a job anywhere and made more money than I was doing it, like anywhere, and made more money.
Yeah.
But it didn't fill me with like excitement, and like I just felt like I was part of something that I couldn't believe. Like sometimes I can't believe it still. I'm like, shit, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And it's like that's what did it. It's maybe it's addictive or obsessive feelings, but like that's what did it.
Okay.
Because like if I could somehow make a movie of my first 5 to 7 years of like really trying to make it a movie, it's a horror film, man. Like it was like self-torture.
Yeah.
It was self-torture.
Okay.
But I definitely look at it as some of my happiest times.
Okay.
Because everything was exciting. And either you learn, you're like, shit, and like you do this, you do that. Like I remember like the first time, I forget what artist it was. My boss at the time was like, all right, you're gonna hang out in their dressing room before the show. Just make sure nobody comes in, like anybody like wants to do an interview. Like all you're gonna do is just like do that. I ended up just basically getting them cigarettes. Like it was just a runner job. Man, that was the greatest. I thought about that for a month after.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I got to walk with them to the stage. Holy shit, this is incredible. I'm watching them on the side stage. It's terrible sound. You can't hear anything because in my head, and this wasn't even like a big, they're not even around anymore. In my head, I was like, I can't believe it.
That was it.
I remember telling my parents this. They thought I was nuts anyways, but they were like, yeah, I don't know who that is, but sounds cool, Yeah.
I can imagine that. Just on the phone. What's he saying?
Yeah.
He's standing at the side of the stage.
Yeah,
It's
I was just
awesome.
like-
He bought somebody cigarettes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But even they come off stage and they go back to the room and they're like they nod at me. Man, I was like, fuck, this is
He's saying
great.
they nodded at him too.
Yeah.
He's really happy.
Yeah, text my friends. I was doing this, and they're like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "Ah, shit." But
See?
it still was so cool to me. You get to the inner workings of it all, and how they do stuff. Because even some of the worst people, when you watch them on stage, even if they're they're terrible off stage,
Yeah.
still when they're good, you're like, "Fuck, this is transcending."
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm swearing. By the way, I just realized I was swearing a lot.
We're gonna kick off in 2 minutes. So. That's a lot. I had to clarify this. Okay. First thing, therapy. Leaped into everything, changed your mindset. That really helped. There's 2 secrets. First one I could get with the therapy that helped. What else was the second thing?
It's probably there's no. I get no credit for this.
Okay.
It's just growing older. Because you grow older and you've experienced more, and things don't bother you as much. I think of things that would make me fly off the handle.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, well, it's all good,
I love that.
And I think maybe therapy helps with that, but I do think the aging, because we're all not all of it. I don't want to say all you are, but I was at least.
Yeah.
I don't think I was a bad younger person, but I was definitely a know-it-all.
Yeah.
Who knew nothing. I knew it all, but I didn't know anything.
I was terrible at being young.
Yeah.
So bad at it.
Yeah.
I'm still not good, but I was very bad at being young. Just not successful at it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
I'm getting
actually,
better at being older.
one of the things my therapist said to me, one of the things that always stuck with me,
Yeah.
because he's known me forever, and he was always, one of the good pieces of advice he gave me was he's like, this goes for you, but this goes for everybody in life.
Okay.
Because he knows how much I care about art and music and all that. He's like, the problem is you love this so much, but he's like, you don't consider yourself an artist. I was like, what are you talking about? I remember we had this whole talk. He's like, what you do is your own art. How you manage your vision of what's next and all that. And he's like, then he gave me this whole breakdown of people in Japan who sweep the streets, that they see that what they do as an art.
Hey.
They're gonna perfect their art, and it's gonna be beautiful. And I was like, holy shit, that's amazing.
See?
Yeah.
This is great. I was smiling because I've had some very similar conversations about very similar topics. Almost like the actual thing that you're talking about right now in recent days. And it's really nice to see that at your level, these are some things that it's nice to see when you feel like you're having some good conversation with people. You look at people at the top where you're trying to get to, and you're like, okay, they're thinking like this too. That's nice. Who are some people that you've encountered that have surprised you with some great knowledge that just changed where you're at?
Okay, so I could go the traditional route of therapists and other music executives. What I love is if you get into a room with guys or girls that are 12 to 15 who love music and just going, tell me what you love and why. Why don't you like this? And it's not because I'm doing research, but they have such great answers of what they're so raw and they haven't been biased yet for the most part.
Nice.
And you can learn a lot from that. And even if you're yeah, what do they know? I'm I know. And they're yeah, I don't like that song. And you're you kind of have to go.
I love it.
It's it's cool to do that. Because some of the music executive people, they have their own vision for stuff too. Some of them have egos that are bigger than their visions. Hey. So you don't know what they're, But I'd rather talk to what I've done actually starting in when COVID started to hit,
Yeah.
is I like took a real interest in other forms of art.
Okay.
Not because I wanted to work in it, but it's so interesting to go if you're like, oh, why, like, why does Kerouac write the way he does?
Yeah.
Or like, why does this person paint the way they does? Or why do they build this sculpture the way they does? It's really cool. It's all the same. It's just it's a different medium, but a lot of it comes from the same place inside. And I like the idea, at least, of like stripping things down to like pure art form.
Yeah.
Because everything we do, like all the stuff we do in the business, like the bells and whistles and the marketing, we have to do that. That's just the name of the game.
Yeah.
But at the core of what any artist does, it starts with how they want to present what they do to the world.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a mistake. It's like when people go, yeah, I hate country music.
I can't do
You
that.
work in music. What do you mean you hate country music? Like, I'm not into hip hop. How could you not be? Like, if you love music, you have to love it all. You might have your taste, but you have to, like, when something's good, it's good.
Yeah. Hearing that almost feels to me like, you know, when you're hearing like teachers, like burnt out teachers talking to each other, you know what I mean? Like, I can't stand these kids, they're the worst. It's like, too bad you work with kids all day.
It's
You know?
yeah, and they're just coming from a place of like their own probably sad self-reflection.
For sure.
That they don't feel they're with it.
For sure. What are you going to do to make sure that you are never sitting at a water cooler complaining about the new whatever type of music with other coworkers?
Man, I've totally caught myself doing that too. There's things I don't appreciate
Yeah.
off the first thing. Like when, and I'm not going to say I'm a big appreciator of this, but like when TikTok first happened,
Yeah.
I could not understand it. And then people like, you know, all the people I knew, like how important it is for music. I knew they were right. I just didn't want to accept it.
Yeah.
But again, that's just me getting in front of myself.
Yeah.
And I do catch myself being like, you know, the funniest thing is like when I catch myself like knocking a band that's successful.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, who the hell am I? I can't do what they do. I can't do what they do. But I'm like, they suck. Yeah, but I think that's just everybody loves to do that, you know?
Yeah. Everybody hating's fun sometimes.
You got to get rid of you have to.
It's it. It's just, we all like to hate on
Something.
I don't even know what I'm saying about that. I want to make sure right now that we take some questions from everybody here. So if anybody has a question that they want myself, no, I'm joking, Doug to answer, but put your hand up. I would love to hear from you. Oh, you're doing such a good job.
What are some of your tactics for making sure you don't burn out, even though the workload is going?
Oh, that's for sure my worst. And I think if you talk to most people, like I think of all my colleagues or people, other managers, other artists, nobody's figured that out. It's really difficult. Like, it's a combination of like, you love what you're doing, so you just push forward. Then it's this fear of like, if I'm not working super hard, it's all gonna end, or I'm not gonna do this. And then insecurity, where you're like, are people gonna think I'm not good if I just am not constantly going? I'm better than I was for sure, but I'm definitely not there. If I put on a level of priority for what I wish for myself, it's certainly number one. I haven't figured out it's like, yeah, they never work though. I'll be like, all right, I'm going on vacation, which I never do. And I'll be like, I'm going on vacation. I did this in the summer. And it was crazy. I was like, I'm not even joking. I never go. Years, decade, I've never go. And I'm like, I'm gonna go on a 2-week vacation. Ooh. I spent like a month telling my whole team, just like, I was putting like things in place. I'm like, I am actually not gonna check emails. That's all I did. That's all I did. It's not healthy. No. And like, it's not good. You shouldn't live your life that way. So I haven't figured it out. I'm really trying. It was a good vacation, but I still was like on.
So then follow up, if you just know that that's how you are, then is it basically like you just pivot your mental state to like work within the way you know you work to find happiness?
Well, yeah, yeah, and I think maybe I'm a little bit luckier because I could complain like, oh God, I'm working on my vacation. At the end of the day, I'm like, I do enjoy what I do. So it's just me being a baby complaining to like people who aren't even listening. Like, oh, see this bullshit? I'm like working, and it's like, I didn't have to, but I wanted to. Yeah. Maybe it was different if I really didn't like what I was doing. Maybe then it'd be like a real issue of stress. And like another thing, probably in all industries, but a big problem right around the start of COVID and then towards the real epicenter of it, there was a lot of people in the music industry who were burning out in very, very tragic ways. There was a lot of people that you'd be like, this person killed himself. This person's at the top of their game. What the, there's no fucking way. But they let, that was happening a lot of heart attacks, a lot of stuff, and it's all stress. Yeah. Well, it's like the it's like the Instagram thing. It's like we're seeing everybody's best life, but we're all struggling with something. Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? I have a microphone for you. Oh, here you go. For the people at home.
It's changed quite a bit over the years. I put a lot of credit to Steve because he's the driving factor behind everything I do. So he is a guy that's like just at all times wanting to do stuff, creative stuff, and that drives me because even the days where I'm like, oh, I'm already juggling way too much. How am I going to do this? It's exciting because it's like. He's like motivating, and I think a lot of our team would feel the same way. It's like, well, he wants to do it. I'm here to work for him.
For sure.
So I get to go, help with his dreams. That helps me a lot. And then the other thing now, maybe I don't know what's going to happen today or tomorrow. I think that what keeps me wanting more, what I want in the future is just to keep on working with artists.
Sweet.
Any type of art I admire.
There's nothing wrong with all of those things. I have, I guess, a question for you. How do you know when you're onto something? How do you, with all the projects that you've worked over time or whatever, I'm sure there's some commonalities between when something's because we always get a good feeling, that's why we start something. Yeah. But how do you differentiate between the thing and then the thing that you're just trying to make a thing? What is there? How do you tell those feelings when you're really onto something, or when maybe it's time to back off it and try something new?
What I've noticed, and I haven't had this feeling a ton of times, but there is a weird gut feeling.
That's the one.
There's a energy where you're like, something's happening here.
Yeah.
And then there's this weird thing where you just sort of, if you open your eyes, you see a lot of people feeling the same way. It's very easy to get feedback now. Even if people don't give you the exact feedback, you're like, wait a second, we just put this out and 50,000 people just liked it. Why? And then you look at other things where well, that got way less or that got a lot more. And then there's this weird momentum that sort of happens, whether it's putting out new music or new this or new that. You sort of start feeling it. It's almost like you're feeling the earth start pushing something. It's probably not helpful, but that's the best way I can.
I'm okay
it's
with
a
that.
Weird thing where you're you just kind of know. It's kind of if you meet somebody you like and you're wondering, you have those first dates where this is not working, but then there's other ones where you're for some reason things are clicking. And I don't know if you can break down exactly why, but there's just this is feeling, something's feeling. That's what I attributed, like that's what I compare it to.
So, how have you? What kind of things do you find that you're drawn to? Like we talked about, there's art or you know, you can just tell down some of the business decisions, the projects you're taking on. What kind of things are you finding yourself drawn to? Like you know, is there anything that just that's where your head's at right now?
I go through weird things. Like I went through a very unhealthy, like Beatles obsession.
Unhealthy.
I literally spent a month, like the Beatles. I just went through it, and I'm not joking. I spent a month like I was like in college researching this for like but then I'll switch, and I'll be like, all right, I went into like just weird things.
Yeah.
There's this drummer from the 70s called Ginger Baker. I went down this rabbit hole of him. Then I went on to like a thing with some artists, just some painters that I was really, really obsessed with.
Yeah.
Then I found this like, the latest one is this Japanese, he's American. He's an American-Japanese woodworker
Okay.
named Nakashima.
Okay.
He was born and raised in the US. He died like 20 years ago.
Okay.
But he makes this furniture. And he's very famous now. It's in museum. He wasn't at the time, but it's all in museums now. But I like deep dive reading books and all this stuff. And like reading like his whole philosophy of everything. The furniture is like incredible. It has a beauty and soul to itself. But that's where I kind of get into things, and then I'm like, oh great, I'm going down a rabbit hole. And then I'm like, all right, for the next month, I'm obsessed with this.
See, that's like my cousin with spaghetti.
Whoa.
He just goes he goes hard. I'm that way with a lot of weird things too. I'm not even gonna get into all of it. But his thing is spaghetti. He always acts like it's gonna go on to something else, but then he just 6 months goes by and he's obsessed with spaghetti. It's cool. Yeah. Spaghetti is not even that good, which is sad. But he loves to really. I'm not even joking. It's kind of weird. But I see how dope it would be if it's something that you actually work with. And if it's something that you actually are passionate about. How do you, so Nakashima, right? That was his name? What? Because I honestly believe that there's no wasted knowledge, and I believe there's no wasted time when you're putting the effort into something. What have you gotten back from this Beatles deep dive, or this Ginger Baker deep dive, or this Nakashima deep dive? What? Because I feel like these phases that you're talking to me about, I feel like that's still in your brain trying to figure out even more moves to make or more, you know. What are you getting from that?
It's being drawn.
Yeah.
I think what a lot of these people have in common is they put the art before everything. They made what they believe to be the best thing ever, and then they give a shit what anybody thought. You know, if you listen to, I don't want to go on about the Beatles, but if too many people A&R'd people, like, they would have been like, what, the Sgt. Pepper's, like, go back to, like, the other stuff. If they really would have listened to what people were saying.
Yeah.
Like, you have to think about, like, just, I don't care, I'm going to do this. It's another old reference, Pet Sounds from Beach Boys.
Yeah.
That was a complete flop. But he didn't give a shit. He was like, this is great. Now it's considered, like, it's going to be in the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
These are, I think, the commonality between good writing or poetry or painting or sculpting or music is like, I think what I admire and what draws me to these things is just somebody's relentless pursuit of doing something they believe is beautiful and truthful and great.
It's authentic. It's very
authentically them.
Yeah. I like that. I really appreciate it. So what I'm gathering so far, you got to be true to yourself. You got to keep pushing.
Yeah.
Therapy helps.
Therapy is a big one. I'm kind of like really into that for everybody. And I was against it. I was super against it. It's like, fuck, I don't need it. I'm fine. That's the common word everybody says, I'm fine. But no, that opened my eyes. And going back to what you just said.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it back to Steve.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm going to bring it back to Steve, just like anybody that's doing something on a big level, he's going to have as many haters as he is going to have people that love him.
Yeah.
Where this where the great thing about Steve is, Steve has been unapologetically himself since I met him. He does not give a shit what people think. People are like, oh, he's lame, he's doing this. He doesn't care. He literally is like, he's like a captain of a boat with nobody on it. He's like, I am going wherever I want to go.
Dope.
And I really respect that. People can be like, all right, well, he's not making music like Beethoven or he's not the Eagles.
Okay.
He's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
There's no one else like him. You'd be like, all right, who's like him? There's nobody like him. Who's like the Beatles? Who's like Ginger Baker? Who's like Shakespeare? You know? They're just, I'm not saying comparing him to be like, he's this great thing, but he's doing his own thing.
Definitely
He just does whatever he wants to do. I respect that so much. Even when he's like, I'm going to do this, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. It doesn't matter what I think. But he's just like, I could be like, that's a bad idea. And he's like, no, we're doing it. I'm like, respect.
See, because like that actually brings me to a little side kind of question, like the cakes. Were you? Because if you started with him, the first time you worked with him in 2005, the cakes weren't then.
No.
So were you with him when Kicks started making anything?
Yeah.
How did that?
It was a gimmick. So he had a record label.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about him is he was cross. There's a record called Gimmick.
Yeah.
It's 27 years old. It started in his college one. It's still fully staffed and operational in Los Angeles today, where even some juggernaut major labels have gone under.
Still
I'm
going.
not saying this is like some life-changing, like, gazillion-dollar label. It's still, I think we're at 16 staff, and it's still fully functioning label. And he started this from his dorm room in Santa Barbara. Also, similar to me, he used to throw parties. But the whole cake thing, he signed this artist from Toronto.
Yeah.
They ended up, at the time, they're called Vandalism, but they turned into this group called Autoerotic.
Okay.
So they made a music video where they showed these like beautiful cakes in very, very slow-mo, like chef's table, like exploding. So they did a show in Los Angeles, and Steve came and was a special guest just to support an act he signed. So he's like, okay, well, we got to promote the song and the single. The video just came out. Let's just do these. We'll do like a gimmick.
Yeah.
So they brought out all these cakes and they caked a bunch of people. And then it turned into like people started bringing signs and signs. And I'm telling you, like, we go to a show and he's not doing cakes. My God, do we hear about it? The hate on emails after, like, even it's a thing that he just has to do now. He enjoys it, but there was no strategy to it.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, this artist I signed, let's come up with a promotional gimmick. It'll be fun and good content.
See.
That was 2014, 13, yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, we almost crossed paths a few months back in Germany, and I remember being backstage at a show, and there's just a table, just stacked with sheet cakes, just so much cake, and everybody was like, stop for a second, and like we were just staring at it. I had no idea like what to think. You have an idea, but no, and then all of a sudden, one lady walks by, she's like, Steve, every like literally 10 people staring at. Oh yeah, everyone walks. It makes sense. It's mad cakes, just stacked.
It's a weird thing that people love it, people hate it. But it's like, even these festivals, so like, no, we're not doing cakes. That's like,
But it also really plays into that kind of like, head down, trust your gut, and go. So
he knows who he is.
Yeah.
He knows who he is and what he wants to do. And like, you kind of respect that opinion. Like, even if you're like, I hate to like, it doesn't matter, man. He's carved his own way. You have to respect someone who's like, I'm going to do it. I respect anybody. It doesn't matter what they do or where they're at, even their careers. They're just like, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. Yeah, it's amazing.
these are the people that inspire everybody.
Dope. Does anybody have? Oh, we do have a question over here.
I'm just wondering, where was Steve at in his career when you started working with him, and kind of what brought you together? And was he working with another person prior to that?
Yeah, so
Steve was just my
DJ. He was throwing these really cool parties in LA, but nowhere else. Like maybe he'd go play like college parties or like, but it wasn't like a lucrative business for him. Oh, my bad. Sorry. Yeah, so he was throwing these parties, and at the time there was a guy named Matt, and Matt was his agent. He was like sort of like he called himself an agent. He wasn't an agent. He used to work at this magazine called BPM, which was a big dance magazine. So he would book Steve around LA, $100 a night, $200 a night. And then Steve started getting booked to play all these like parties in LA. And he's like, Matt's like, all right, I'll be your agent. He wasn't even like, sometimes he was doing stuff and other times Steve would be like, you know, this restaurant hit me up. And he would just handle it all. But at that time, I don't even know how I came across him, but I got enthralled with his party photos. So he used to post every Tuesday on his MySpace, or Wednesday, his party photos, and they look like a punk rock electro Studio 54. And I was enthralled with it. I was never seeing anything like that. There's no social media. That's the only place you could see it. So every Wednesday I'd go look. And then I was throwing my own parties here. I didn't even know what it meant to bring some. I didn't know like what they charged. I didn't know any of that. I literally just was like MySpace them. Like, hey, like, and we talked a little bit. And then I think he like threw out like a bunch of weird numbers of like what it was gonna cost. And we ended up settling and like, I'm gonna give you this amount of money. And like, you book your own flights. It was like, he took care of everything. And at that time, Matt was still sort of an agent. Wasn't really a manager for him. And then long story short, Matt became his manager. And there's two of us. At one point, actually, sadly, at the start of COVID, there was three of us. There was a guy named Michael Thean. Michael Thean was, he took care of a lot of the business in the UK and in Europe. He was one of Steve's closest best friends. He actually died right at the start of COVID. Talk about stress. He had a heart attack. 45. Nobody saw it coming. He was walking his dog, and yeah. So there was three of us, and the cool thing about Steve, which I really also respect, is Matt, Michael Thean, myself, and if you think of Tonight at a Show, his tour manager Dylan. Yeah, I think the photographer that's going to be here tonight. Everybody's known him for a decade. He's very loyal. Like he wants people around him that are loyal. I don't know, did I answer your question?
So you started working with him like right after that first show that you brought up?
Not right after, no. Actually what happened was, I think, maybe there was from 2005 to 2007, I think we did 2 more shows. I remember we did one at Green Room, and then another one at, oh, you were there. I have a photo of me and you. That's right. That's right. So we did 2.
Fun fact.
This actually goes into my insecurity story. So, and then I moved to Toronto. And the cool thing about where worlds collide was, the reason I picked where Chris Taylor and Last Gang was I was obsessed with Mastercraft and Crystal Castles. Lo and behold, they were all friends and they played Steve's Party. I kind of knew it, but I didn't. When I started working there, Mastercraft signed to DIMAC. So I was like, oh, cool. Like, I'm kind of working with Mastercraft, so I can use that to stay in touch with Steve. And then I started working with this Montreal DJ named Tiga. And at that time, Steve was obsessed with Tiga, 2009. And so what I would do is I would send Steve new singles before they came out, and like try to be like, hey, like, you know, because I knew he loved them, and I probably didn't even know I was just like sending out mail that day, but I used all those things to really get him, and it was like we stayed in touch. And then I had my own roster of artists. Some of them went on tour with him. Whenever I was in LA, we'd hang out, and it was really just sort of classic Steve, like just I forget where we ended up, like we were in the same city together. We ended up just like, hey, let's hang out for a minute, like before your show. We caught up, and then he just sprung it on me. I didn't see it coming. I surely didn't expect it or think that would ever happen. But it was like, going back to you, it was like the Seeds, like 2005. It took 5 or 6 years, more than that, for that to happen. But I will say we had an organic relationship to begin in. Because I'm sure he, like, when he met me, he's like, oh, this guy's cool, but he doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, hopefully that, yeah.
Very, very, very exciting. I like the Seeds.
I like the fact that it's organic. You're not forcing anything. I think a lot of times, at least personally, in talking to some of our members, even, I think a lot of times people get ideas in their head about like they want it to be this way, they want to force it this way, and from talking to you, it sounds like the most natural, comfortable thing, the place that you actually want to do. That by pouring your energy and your effort into that, it's going to lead a lot more results against than trying to squeeze yourself into a box that you don't even fit into.
And I would hope, I'm just projecting because maybe I didn't come off this way back then.
Yeah.
I really led with what I hope was authenticity of being interested in them.
Yes.
Like I wasn't like trying to get something. I never asked him for anything. I was never trying to do anything.
No.
To like maneuver like into something. And I think that's probably why we connected. And I think that's why a lot of things, like we've known each other for a long time, and it's never been this weird relationship where you're like trying to, because in music too, there's always the angle of like,
Yeah.
what can this person do for me?
Yeah.
Not what can I do for them? What can they do for me? That's classic music industry.
For sure.
And maybe I didn't even know that was, I could have done that back then, because yeah.
But you know, it's so nice
To hear that story and nice to hear the organic. And I mean, like, even when you're talking about, I really like this DJ, so I would send that stuff over. That sounds to me, it sounds kind of sweet. Like, hey, I want to make friends with this person, so like, we both like similar stuff. Here you go. Here's something that I know you like. It's nice.
Almost like you're courting them.
I'm going to tell you my best courting story of Stevie Aoki. And please, I'm going to caveat this. This is not a narcissism thing I'm about to say, because I'll explain just how it worked. So we've been friends for a while, and my boss, Chris, at the time, he was working with Nelly Furtado when Nelly was like the queen of the world.
Yeah.
So he gave me this shot where he like put me on tour with her and her opening band.
Okay.
I'm not talking like any sort of role besides like getting coffee and being yelled at all day long.
Nice.
So the coolest thing was, so Nelly's amazing. She's like one of my favorite humans and artists ever. So I got to sort of know her on the road. We ended up becoming friends, and she was like into the music I was into. And then she asked me about, hey, you know about the Steve Aoki party in LA? We're doing a show there. I'd love to go. And my head was like, oh my God, I can make that happen. I'm gonna like call Steve. He's gonna think I'm so cool because I can set this up. And it was this little party on Hollywood Boulevard, this little dingy dive bar.
Yeah.
So I call him, and he was such a fan. He's like, oh my God, you can make that happen. And so the best thing was I'm like, all right, I got it all organized. Her team was like, stay out of her life. Like, she was so nice to me, but they were like, why are you talking? Like, what? You shouldn't be organizing any of this stuff.
Yeah.
But I got it all set up.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, this is going to be amazing. So I was with Chris. We go to LA, and he's like, all right, we're going to go. And then her team's like, yeah, you can't go in with her at the same time.
Oh, wow.
They're like, you got to like stay back and do that. Like, don't be. She's amazing. She had no idea any of this stuff was going on. Anyways, they go in. I wait with one of her security guards, who's an amazing guy. And he's just talking to me, and he's basically there to be like, all right, now you can go in.
Yeah.
I'm waiting outside this club like an idiot. But I go in, and this is at the height of like Man-Eater and Loose.
Nice.
Go in, and I go to this. They had one table, like one booth in the whole place, because it's not that kind of place. And I look, and I'm like, holy shit. It's Nelly, it's Justin Timberlake, it's Timberland, and it's Jimmy Iovine. Couldn't get like even, they wouldn't let me.
Force field.
But, and I know if Steve was here right now, he like was like, he'll still talk about it. He's like, remember we brought Nelly to the thing? I didn't really bring her. I like planted seeds
Yeah.
to get her there. But the reality was, if he knew the like all the behind the scenes, I just like sort of made it happen.
You judged it.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
That's maybe that's why I work with him now. I don't know. Maybe that was my claim to fame.
Probably.
Yeah.
Like arranging something like that
Yeah.
isn't a small feat. And let's see.
She was gonna listen. She could have went wherever she wanted. She didn't need me.
But you
Yeah.
did it though. You know?
Maybe. Not at all.
Like she needed somebody to advocate for her to make that happen.
Yeah.
See, Doug, we're all arguing with you. You did do it. It was you.
I wish I could see a video. Well, if you could have seen like if maybe they have surveillance tape of me walking in the club, being like, big smile, like seeing the table, like, oh my God, and like getting like 20 feet to them, they're like, turn me around.
Yeah.
But I didn't care. I was still like, see, look what happened. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Look, yes. You gotta refresh my memory or give me a recap. It's all about working with. Within the music industry, what aspect of it do you cover? As in responsible for, whether it's management, production, promotion, and
So
artist, composer, writing,
Yeah.
what aspect of that?
when it comes to Steve, I can only speak probably generally. Oh, I need to do this. Sorry about that. When it comes to Steve, I'm his manager. So pretty much everything he touches or does in life either starts with me or ends with me. I'm involved in every aspect, except for when the creative. I don't, if he wants to work with this producer or this songwriter or this DJ or this whoever in music, I let him. But if he says to me, hey, I want to work with this producer and I can't get to him or her, can you connect it for me? It's the only thing else. But anything else he does, if he, like this show tonight, we have a tour manager and an agent that books the show, but I still have to like approve the show, make sure everything is good, all that, to what he's going to do tomorrow, what his goals are for next year, musically, touring. So I guess the best way is like I'm a filter, and a lot of the stuff comes in, and I go, all right, that's for his label, that's for his publisher, that's for his lawyer, that's for, we have an A&R team, that's for his marketing team, but I still have to like manage all that. Yeah. Actually, yeah, not really. Like, he's a producer and DJ, but there are a lot of songs his voice is on that people wouldn't know. But he's not a vocalist. He's not like a singer. Yeah. What? My opinion is, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, is be doing it every day and post. There's social media. You can get to people. Don't be precious about it. Share it with the world. Everything you do, share it. YouTube. You can get yourself on Spotify. You can get yourself on all these things. Just keep on making music. And also, like, it goes back to the truth and honesty. Like, whatever you put out there, make sure you're proud of it. Don't put it out there because you can put it out there, or because you're like, well, it's finished, so I'm putting it out there. Like, when I say put everything out there, put everything you really believe in, because that's eventually how it's going to work. Like, there's so many examples I can say in various genres. Like the countless amount of people discovered on SoundCloud when SoundCloud was really big. These are just people that were just posting stuff all the time, and eventually, whether it was fans started like talking and they're like, all of a sudden they have this huge listenership, or a manager or somebody comes and is like, I like this. Like, that's how it happens. You just got to keep on putting it out there. Don't wait for anybody. Don't think a record deal is going to like make you. Most record deals are going to break you. They're going to screw your career. Just keep doing it. Put out good stuff that you believe in, that you'll look back on like 2 years and be like, That's great. I love it. I don't care if nobody listened to it, but I love it. Eventually, you'll find your niche, and then you'll know what's working because you'll start seeing it. You'll be like, whether people are messaging you or the comments or the views will start speaking for itself. I think it's, once you start making, you'll start noticing you're doing something right because people will start calling, whether it's managers or labels or publishers, people will start coming. I think you have to stay true to yourself, and if you're going to start putting people on your team, you have to put people on your team that totally believe in what you're doing, are here to help you, not to help themselves. Like, they're going to be your sort of internal audience to tell you, yeah, like, that's not working, or do this or do that. But I think if you're in any type of art, you just always have to be creating. Always. It doesn't make any sense to say, hey, I'm an artist and I only write this amount of songs. And now that I'm done and it's out, I'm gonna sit and wait and see how it does. It's great, put stuff out, but just keep on going, because it's like that 10,000 hour rule. Like, it takes a while. Like, not everybody is lucky as, Mozart to be doing what he did. You really, really have to work. Everybody's like, oh, like, maybe this is a bad example, but like, when Katy Perry became Katy Perry, everybody's like, oh, she won Best New Artist. She got dropped by 3 labels and had a career for 10 years before that happened. But everybody was like, oh, she won Best New Artist at the Grammys. She was out for 10 years. Nobody heard her, it just wasn't working. But she continued to keep on going. And I think if you consider yourself whatever your craft is, your goal should be to perfect it. That's my opinion. That's what I've seen work, and I think everybody has their own way, but I think that's a general accepted rule. Yeah, you could dress something up. You can dress it up all you want. Worry about it being great. Worry about whatever you do, whatever your craft is, being great. Because it doesn't matter what you put on it. Like, I hear about people that have a song, they're like, a label wants to put it out, and they're gonna put hundreds of thousands of dollars behind a song that most people are like, this isn't a great song. They get the best publicists, the best marketing, they have billboards, TV ads, and in 6 months it's gone. And they're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. We had the best people working on it. At the end of the day, if the art's not good, it doesn't matter. So you have to really believe in your art and go, this is gonna be good.
Okay, we're gonna try and rush through a couple more questions quick. I see 3 questions. I'll go here, then I'm gonna go here, then I'm gonna go there, and then we'll call it a wrap session. I definitely just dove into it. I did have the help. I was working in Toronto with an actual manager who had me doing everything. Like, when I mean everything, all the learning assistant level administrative stuff. And by watching, I also studied it. I would go and find out who are all the greatest managers. I'd read about them. And then I kind of just threw myself into it. I was like, I started getting my own little artists to manage. And I was just like, I'm gonna manage them. You make all these mistakes and learn as you go. Nice.
But there was no, I didn't go to any sort of
formal training.
No.
But it sounds like you did a lot of self-study and opportunity to practice.
You just got you get wildly interested in whatever you want to do. And if you're wildly interested in something, you sort of just learn.
It's a recurring theme, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. What do we got?
You mentioned once you get to that point in your career when people start coming to you and you have to choose people that have good intentions. How do you know who has good intentions and who's like bullshitting you?
Yeah.
How do you tell?
I think everybody has an intuition inside of them if they're honest. If you've met somebody and your friends are like, stay away from him or her, you're like, no, it's cool. But I think there's an intuition, And I think if somebody leads with like, I love what you do. Like I'm a fan. I'm a fan and I want to be around you in any capacity because I'm a fan of what you're doing. I think that's a good place to start. You don't know, everybody's different. There's some really smooth talking people out there. But that's what I would care. Like I care about people that are like wildly interested in what I'm doing or what our artists are doing. And then the rest falls into place. And then you just like, I think you learn intuition, and then you learn, you're gonna get screwed over a couple times. And once you get screwed over a couple times, it's like anything, you get smarter. Yeah.
That is actually I'm glad you asked that question. And that was a very good answer to that question as well. And I will talk to you both, I'm sure after this is done, about that. One more question.
It's sort of like, it depends on your objectives of, I'll say the artist's objectives of what they want to do. You know, with Steve, we kind of do everything in-house, and he kind of always did that. Before, even when he wasn't as successful, he still pretty much, even though he's like posts way too much on social media, he still kind of runs it all himself. He's amazing. He sort of is the head of all things Steve Aoki socials. But Steve captains it all. We come up with strategies and posting schedules, but I do know a lot of artists, especially in LA, it happens a lot where an artist will sign to a big label, and the label will either do it internally or hire a third party. It really depends on the objectives of the artist, because some artists are like, I don't want any of that. I'll just post when I want to post. And I think more in like pop music, mainstream pop music, they're very like, we got to like keep the presence up. It's like that hamster wheel of like, what social media does. I think you just got to find your own voice, because there are people like Kendrick Lamar. He's arguably one of the most successful people in music right now. He doesn't post at all, but there are labels that'd be like, he's crazy not to post. It's going to ruin his career. That's just not who he is. But then there's other artists that just post 50,000 times a day. Yeah, it's like, I think you get a sense of what you want and what you need, and then you'll know. It's kind of, and then what I said to you, you got to make some mistakes. You'll make mistakes that are costly and be like, well, that was a dumb mistake. It's just going to happen. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna wrap right now, and it's been obviously great to have you here. But if before we go, bullet points, first things that come to your mind. 3, if I was to say, Doug Bohay's 3 things that you need to take away from this, or things that he wish he could have told himself or anybody else. 3 things.
I like the things that I wish I would have told
Perfect.
myself.
You can't be wrong with this because it's you on both ends. So let's go. What are the 3 things?
Be way more honest with myself.
I love that.
In every way.
I love that.
This is a cheesy one, but it reigns really true. Don't sweat the small things, because that used to keep me up at night. Everything kept me up at night.
Nice.
The anxiety was out of control for nothing. It was like nothing ever went bad. Even when it went bad, it wasn't that bad. And then number 3, that's really kind of cheesy too, but like, forgive me for what I'm about to say, but maybe like I wish I was a little more brave.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not cheesy.
Yeah.
That's great advice.
That's when I think back, I wish I would have been a little bit more brave.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, like, I can't be mad at it because it's your advice to you back in a time machine.
Yeah.
Cut me in on the royalties if you pull the time machine off.
Yeah.
That's going to be fire. Other than that, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Dougie, thank you for being here.
Thanks,
and
man.
I am going to extend an open invitation to you so we can do something like this.
You know me, man.
again.
I'm always hitting you up being like,
You literally are.
I'm like, let's do stuff. Because like, and just lastly, I know it's raining and it's a Friday, so I'm really happy for everybody that came. And I like really want to reiterate like how much you ask anyone on my team, I'm a Winnipegger. I spent a big chunk of my life in Toronto, but I'm like a Winnipegger, and I like
100%.
I'm a big evangelist for Winnipeg. So,
100%.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for everybody for showing up. Thanks to the people online. Yeah, we made it through another hybrid event. Doug Bohay, killing it. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. See ya.
Thanks, man.